is about 50%. The Chubb fire is now 100% contained, which is great news. The Little Knife fire is now being turned back to the local forest. Awareness, we have had some additional fires in the last week. We had one fire, 1/10 of an acre, near Bike about 2 days ago, had some lightning, and that is now contained. A couple other notes of statistics I thought would be worthy of sharing. We have 875 personnel currently on this fire. Structures, 0 structures lost to date. We still have several is under Ready, Set, Go. We have 1,043 structures currently in ready status. We have 713 in set status, and we still have 10 structures in go status. Other kind of noteworthy statistics I thought it'd be kind of fun to share is that on this unique, we've had over 400 firefighters who under canoe safety training. So kind of a unique situation to this air operations. We have lots of water around us here in northern Minnesota. We have delivered 3.8 million gallons of water on these fires. I can't even fathom. Nationally, just for general awareness, we are at level 5 across. This is the highest stage of wildfire preparedness, that national firefighting resources are heavily committed in several large incidents such as this. We have 99 uncontained fires across the country. 20 incident management teams are to managing these incidents. 29,000 personnel being managing these fires. So that's pretty cool, given it's this early in the season. All right, so to kick off, we're going to Corey Henry, who is the Eastern Area Complex Incident Management Team Operations Section Chief. Corey?
Yeah, good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Corey Henry. I'm operations on the Eastern Area Complex Incident Management Team. I'm going to go over an overview of our strategy. So this fire is being managed under a full suppression strategy. We're primarily using this strategy to protect our critical values at risk, including the communities of Ely, Winton, Fernburg corridor, and up along the Canadian border, the mechanical portages, as well as outfitters along that area. In doing, we are implementing a direct strategy, working directly along the fire's edge, as well as prepping portages and other areas to stop the fire spread in those directions. We're also utilizing bodies of water and other natural features to limit spread in those directions. We're also doing an break along Echo Trail, which includes opening up the canopy. So if we were to engage fire in that area, we'll have get people in there and work suppression tactics. We're also assisting Canada in the of a couple portage. We've got some folks up there who are and wrapping different our main structure is along the Winton and Ely areas, including all of the structures along the Fernburg. Currently have around 570 miles of line on these fires, so it's in very inaccessible terrain. So getting people in there via the canoes, via the float planes, and assessing where we can actively put in direct lines, as well as utilizing, like I had mentioned before, those natural. Some of the successes to date, we were able to successfully and fires on the west of our complex, and we're able to turn those back over to the local unit.
Thank you, Corey. Next up, we've got William Gleasner with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, who's going to talk about the statewide fire situation and fire restrictions. Good
afternoon, William Gleasner. I'm the Wildfire Operations supervisor for the state of in central, north, and northwest Minnesota of the state been having below percent of normal precipitation. So this week's drought monitor is showing an increase in almost state now in severe drought. Includes where fire danger can swing quick, especially when we have the scattered and isolated thunderstorms. Just 3 to 5 days of dry weather in the that are droughty is enough for that's where the activity. Because of the drought, of dry, windy days, fires being even though they might not be showing a lot of and the remote rugged conditions. Lake Cook and St. Louis County. What this for the public to know is that dispersed remote backpacking and backcountry camping do not have a campfire in those areas. On state land, no campfires are allowed. And stoves and grills with an on-off switch are allowed in those remote areas. Excuse me. Campfires are allowed in the vicinity of homes and resorts and staff campgrounds. So, for example, in camp. Thank you.
Thanks, BJ. Next up, we have Drew Strober, who is the acting forest supervisor for the Superior National Forest, and he's going to update us on the forest closures, some of the reopenings as well, and some safety tips as well.
So yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So with regard to the closures or the reopening of the boundary waters, we're implementing that in a phased approach. So a couple days ago, we announced phase 5 of that reopening, which will occur tomorrow morning at 12:01 a.m. What that does is it opens up more overnight use to areas around Ely. Once phase 5 is implemented, approximately 69% of the boundary waters will be open for use. In those areas, you know, we believe folks can come up and have a high quality wilderness recreational experience. So those areas, people can come up, enjoy the wilderness. We ask that you do so responsibly and safely. There are still fire restrictions in place in the areas that are opened. With that means that you cannot have any campfires, cannot have use any charcoal grills or any wood burning stoves, but you can use propane or gas burning stoves in those areas. So again, that the areas that are open, please use those responsibly. The other thing that I had is, just given the fact that we had the boundary waters closed for almost 2 weeks, about 13 days, that's had a huge hit on the economy up here. So for folks that want to come up and use the boundary waters this fall, again, we encourage you to use those areas that are open. But if you're not planning on coming up, if you could kindly, go in and you have a permit, go in and cancel those permits, so that we can make sure that people who do want to come up have the opportunity to do so. That's really it on the closures. With regard to the safety aspect, one of the biggest things that firefighters face out there is, and there's a lot of hazards out on the fire line. Let me get that clear. One of the biggest ones is hazard trees. So we've talked a lot about this fire burning in deep duff. There's also a lot of areas that are burning, right on top of rock, or where trees are growing right into rock. So really shallow root system. Even in the duff areas, it's going through that duff and then it's right down to bedrock. So when you have these fire burned trees, what happens is they lose that structural component of their roots. So they burn their roots out and then they can just literally blow over. So that is a huge concern for firefighters. That's a little different than what a lot of our firefighters are used to, which, you know, most of the fires in the US, of course, are out west. This is one of the very few places in the lower 48. In fact, maybe the only place where we have a boreal forest. So these folks are you know, not used to working in these areas. When you go out west, they're mostly looking for burned out trees, you know, that could possibly snap off. Whereas here, the risk is more literally the tree just entirely blowing over. There was a great video that was put out yesterday on the Superior National Forest Facebook page. So I encourage you all to go take a look at that. And then just to give you all some perspective of these fires, you know, we've made good progress, have, you know, quite a bit of containment on these fires, but there are still about 378 miles of uncontained fire line out there, which is a lot of line. To put that in perspective, I looked at this earlier. To go from the Duluth airport to the Minneapolis airport is about 165 miles one way. So that's, you know, from Duluth down to Minneapolis and back. That's how miles of line there are still that are uncontained out there. These fires are not, they're not out by any stretch of the imagination. That in the areas that we've reopened, or we were reopened, we, you know, believe that again, that those quality recreational experience, we do not see any sort of imminent threat for the next, you know, at least several weeks, you know, from these fires in those areas. So we encourage people to, again, to come up and use the boundary waters in those areas that are open, but please do so responsibly, keeping in mind that there are fire restrictions in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Really appreciate that. Next up is Mike Kistner. He's our incident meteorologist. We got a little rain yesterday, which was really helpful, but doesn't sound like we're out of it just yet. So Drew's going to give us a little bit of an outlook.
Thank you very much. I am incident meteorologist Mike Kistner with the National Weather Service. Just arrived yesterday, so I was able to bring that rainfall here to you guys. So we did get a pretty good amount of rainfall too across the fire. We saw generally about 3/4 to 1 inch of rain, and then even some localized amounts over 1 inch of rain over the Wolf Pack and also over the Thumb fires. And those were the fires that were burning fairly actively too the last couple of days. Now, what does this rainfall mean for us? Well, it doesn't mean that we're going to completely put things out. However, it is going to buy us some time. Okay, so when we get this rainfall over the area, what it is going to do is we get a nice 5 to 10 days. Generally, that's what we saw when we had the last rainfall event. So we get a little bit of time where it kind of knocks things down. However, you get a few dry days in a row, and that thing is going to be there. It's still sleeping, but it's not dead. It'll waken back up as soon as we start to get a few dry days. The good, we do have some at least of a few showers in the forecast as we head in towards the end of the week and into the weekend. And it does look like we are going to start to see a little more of an active weather pattern over the next week and a half. So not as much rain as we saw with this last cold front. However, there are some small chances of rain where we could bring at least some relief with some showers, and every little bit is going to help us out in this case. Other than that, as far as trying to think, I had one more thing. And I lost that thought, but thank you very much. So.
No. He's our incident commander for the Eastern Area Incident Management Team. He's going to just managing these fires and what that means for everybody.
Valier. I am the incident management team. We assumed command of this incident on July. These areas. As we move. The logistical support is just as complex as actual firefighting on the landscape in the BWC. One of the non-negotiables for us is the compromise of firefighter and public safety. So the coordination with the local community around evacuations, opening up the BWC, or where we put resources, that is on the forefront of our mind. As we move forward and look at the long-term strategic plan of this incident on the landscape, we will continue to have a full understanding and acknowledgement of the impacts that the communities, the outfitters, and the residents are enduring. Our future strategies and tactics, as we continue to put containment within these areas that have to protect the values at risk, are at the forefront of our mind. We appreciate the partnerships with all of our emergency managers, our cooperators, and everybody else. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate that. All right, so some of the take-home messages here today, right? So we're not out of the woods yet. It's a long haul. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? We have a lot of safety concerns out there on the landscape. Really important that we need to allow the firefighters to do their job and do it well and do it efficiently. The recent rain, it helped, right? But we don't know what the future holds in terms of that weather and the outlook. Resources are slim across the nation. Keep that in mind. Fire restrictions are still in effect. We can't afford to have additional fire starts. So with that, we can start our Q&A. So if you've got a question, we're going to bring up our experts and try to handle your questions. We'll start in the room.
A lot of things that are open that are not Boundary Waters Canoe Area, but they make wonderful canoe trips, and there's downtown Ely, and we have lots still going on, and various community organizations.
The community of Ely is open, right? So I'm going to ask Drew to maybe take that one.
Yes, so the community of Ely is definitely open, has been open throughout this, entire event. We had people obviously up to Fernburg that were evacuated, that have been, those areas have been repopulated. In terms of recreational opportunities outside of the Boundary Waters, yes, there are lots of, campgrounds that we have on the Superior and other places where you can go back and get a wilderness-like experience. There's also, places you can go canoeing, etc. Again, where you can have a wilderness-like experience. And we invite people to come up and visit the Superior and enjoy those activities. Again, as was mentioned earlier, there are fire restrictions in place for the Superior outside of the Boundary Waters. You can have fires in developed campgrounds within the fire ring. So that's different than in the Boundary Waters. So you can't have them within that fire ring. Again, in the Boundary Waters, you cannot have campfires or use any charcoal or wood burning stoves, but outside you can in those developed areas. And we definitely encourage folks to come up and visit the forest.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I heard. Are we going to lose personnel to other fires, and what is that process going to look like?
So we are at a national planning level 5. That means there are a lot of resources. Oh, the question was, how fast are we going to lose resources, and what is the number of personnel going to be like on the fires moving forward? From the state of Minnesota's perspective, our priority is within the state of Minnesota. We're going to continue to provide fire crews to support the incidents up here in Minnesota. We do have national planning level 5, as I mentioned. So there are crews from all over the country that are timing out. We operate on a 2-week period with fire crews. And so they're going to go home, they're going to refurb, and they may get reassigned someplace else. For a little bit of awareness, we start local. So local dispatch, Minnesota Dispatch provides resources. Then we move to the geographic area. You heard Joe talk about the GA or the geographic area. That is the Northeast 20 states. We have crews from Connecticut, Massachusetts, Indiana, Illinois. They're all up here helping out. We have a commitment from the GA that we're going to continue to feed resources into these fires so that we can continue to get containment. And then lastly, there's the national coordination group out in Boise, and they're helping coordinate on a national basis all of the fires across the country.
I can add on to that too. So from a forest perspective, same thing. We're committed to managing these fires and to keeping them as small as we possibly can. You know, that being said, that there is a challenge for resources. You've probably seen in the news where we have, you know, homes burning out in Spokane and 60,000 people that are evacuated. Of course, that's going to get attention, but our focus is here and on continuing to protect our communities, continuing to protect human life in this area. So that is going to be our focus. That is our commitment, and we're currently working on, you know, kind of a glide path. You know, once this team is done here in 10 days or so, on what that's going to look like. But our commitment is that we're going to continue to work these fires, keep them as small as possible. This is a marathon though. These fires are going to until snow falls. Again, it burning in the areas where the fires are currently burning, not in the areas that are, you know, currently open, you know, to the public.
All right, so it looks like we got a question online, and since I woke up old one day, I can put my glasses on so I can read it quick. Happens to the best of us, right? It says, did containment level fall? I think one of the updates last week said it was at 60% contained, now 50%, or maybe 60 applied to a specific proportion. So there's a multitude of reasons why that containment level may rise and fall. First off, we had a little bit of growth with the weather that we had here the last few days. For example, we had this area along the Loon River up towards Loon Lake, that we had some growth over there, and we don't have containment, so that lessened our containment. Another piece is due to the amount of activity that we have out west. We typically have a multitude of different IR flights or infrared flights that are able to fly over and get a good perimeter. The other day, last night, we were able to get another one for that IR flight. We had been lacking that the last few days, so we were able to get more accurate mapping. So again, there was a little bit of fire growth up to the north that we weren't able to map yet. Now we were, so that changed that containment. Another thing we're looking at is called dynamic containment, where we have fire that burns up to a lake, for example, and we haven't had boots on the ground. We know that it's burning to a barrier that it's not going to be able to cross. However, as we get more information and it kind of moves around to an area that perhaps could burn, we may lessen that to just depict the fact that we don't have full containment just on that small piece. So that containment percentage does fluctuate on a fairly regular basis. And as you know, we want to be as accurate as possible. So if it falls a little bit, it's not because, you know, the fire is growing in leaps and bounds. We're just being more accurate in where our containment lines are. Thanks.
I appreciate the question. I actually learned something new there, so thank you. Any other questions? All right, with that, at this time, we have not scheduled another press conference. However, we can pivot at any time, and we will do our due diligence to get to you folks and make that announcement at least 2 days prior to the event. And sounds like, you know, people are getting the message, so we will continue that going forward. Continue to follow us on the Superior National Forest Facebook page. Sign up, get those daily updates. And as things change and throughout the incident, we will update you as soon as possible. Also, IncyWeb is a great place. As things change, we keep that pretty up to date. And we've got a lot of public information officers in the community. Talk to them. Don't be afraid. Really great resources. We've been out fully engaged with the communities around here. Sorry. And lastly, from 4 to 7 this afternoon, we're going to have a fire information open house in Ely at the farmers market. Be a great place to get some B-roll, get some photos. And if you're lucky, you might be able to meet Smokey Bear. So with that, thank you for joining us.